Welcome to the next video installment on Revit Family Jewels. This video is called Autodesk's Big Family Secret. And I've called it that because pretty much everywhere I go, people ask me, what are guidelines and standards for naming parameters in Revit families? Or where can I find instructions on even how to create families? So since it's such a big secret, I'm going to blow the lid off it in this video and reveal all the places we can find these resources. So let's get started. All right, so here we are in the really cool and awesome Family Jewels website. And on the Family Jewels website, I've put a couple of resources on here for us. Down near the bottom of the pages, you'll see that we have Revit Family Creation Guides. And I put both the guides that you're going to need on there. The Families Guide, which is how to create families. This is instructions and tutorials on how to create families. And the Revit Model Content Style Guide. Now, you're going to be able to find these on the Seek website as well. So let's open that in a new tab. These are where these links are going to take you. One of them, the Family Content Style Guide, will go to the Seek website. So welcome to the Seek website. This is what it looks like. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a link here for manufacturers. So select that and also point your manufacturers to it. And down at the bottom is where you're going to find the Revit Model Content Style Guide, right there. Okay, so that'll take you to that. You can download all the information that comes with it. It's 40 megs plus, so it's pretty robust. And if you're looking for the family guide, you want a tutorial on how to make the families. If you click that link, it takes you right out to Autodesk Revit MEP Services and Support. Here's where you can download all those files, zip files and tutorials. Everything you're going to need is in there. So what does that look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go see what it looks like. So I've named the folder I put it all in Revit Model Content Style Guide and Families Guide. You can do whatever you want to. But under the Content Style Guide, we have a README file. And that's important to read. Read this first. Look what it has in it. The purpose of the Model Style Guide is to define Autodesk guidelines and standards for model creation in Revit architecture, MEP, and structure. Okay, here's how you download it. Here's some of the changes that have been made in ADSK, material naming conventions, shared parameters, and so forth. What's new in the guides, what was in version 1 and so forth, known issues. But there's the basics. And then in the general guide, you can go in here, find out if you want to learn about Revit to Seek, Revit Model Content Style Guide itself, the checklist. Let's look at the Model Content Style Guide itself. Here's the contents. Feedback on the guide if you want to give them feedback, determining design intent, okay, balancing performance and design complexity. This is an important one. You know, how detailed do you want these families to be for manufacturers? You guys need to really pay attention to this. This is important stuff. You do not want that family to be more detailed than is absolutely necessary. So just keep it generally simple geometrically, but keep it as informationally robust as you can. So there's design intent versus performance. Gives you some visuals on what that looks like. Just going through here and looking at different things. Element visibilities, areas to avoid for optimum performance. So if you want these families to perform well in your users' Revit projects, here's where you're going to get that information. The list goes on and on and on. There's all sorts of different things in here that need to be covered and addressed. So print this out, read through it. Adding subcategories to model families and so forth. And here's one cool thing I've learned. If you don't have time to read through it, you come down here all the way to the bottom where it says read out loud, and guess what it'll do? It activates read out loud. So let's turn her off. There, it'll read it for you. So that was kind of cool. All right, let's get out of this and take a look at a couple other things here. This is your Revit master list for parameters, part types, and subcategories. Here's where you can see what the different parameter groups are, the parameter types, the parameter names. So here's where all these conventions start to come in, where they're listed in known entities. This is for casework. The top one was for general. There you have air terminals next, communication devices, and so forth. Down here is mechanical equipment. Okay, so we have actual condenser flow, apparent load, area served, ARI number, and so on. There's a lot of pieces of information in here, and they're always getting bigger. Somebody asked me the other day about creating a parameter for boiler horsepower. So we did that. You can create a shared parameter for that pretty easily. Maybe I'll cover that in another video here, but here's where you can see all this information. Right, so here's where you're going to find all that information. And then in the families guide, we have another family guide here with all the documentation, tutorials, and so forth in that. There we go. So there's contents. Let's zoom up here a little bit. Introduction. So understanding Revit families. What are families? Loadable families overview, creating loadable families, understanding the family editor. Understanding what is a loadable family. All this stuff is in here for you. Creating Revit MEP content. So this is strictly for MEP. There's the family tutorial. So here's all the information you need on how to create families. And it comes with all the ENUCHM file, as well as the tutorials that you need to get started with that as well. And since we have a little bit of time left in this video, what I want to do is let's go back to Content Style Guide. Here's what I wanted to go back to. Let's take a look at some more of this so you just have an understanding of what you can get in this. Balancing performance and design complexity we talked about. Autodesk Exchange format. So if you're creating stuff in Inventor that you want to bring over into AutoCAD or into Revit, it'll convert either way in ADSK file format. Anything you see online that has ADSK on it, right there, .ADSK, that content, if you drop it into a DWG environment, will become a block or an MV part. That same ADSK file, if you drop it into a Revit project, becomes a family file. So it will morph either direction. So that's pretty powerful. If you have one-off stuff or custom stuff in Inventor that you want to bring over, you can use that. Using imported content, the do's and don'ts. Planning a Revit model family, this is critical. You want to be able to start off on the right foot. So this is going to help you get started on the right foot. Where do I begin? Right, here's where you can begin. Family units, naming conventions, type naming conventions, category and subcategories, approved parameter usage, omni-class table, classification codes, parameter naming conventions, material conventions, type catalog standards and usage, best practices for adding connectors. This is one of the key components in Revit families that most users are not aware of. They ask a lot of questions on this. They think that they have to model a pipe with an inside and outside diameter. Well, you don't. You just have to model what the outside of that pipe looks like, because the pipe, the geometry itself is dumb. The connectors are what have the intelligence in them. So this is key section in here. Also, testing guidelines. You want to flex that model and make sure that it works the way you expect it to work. So here's where some testing guidelines are, and so forth. So anyways, I've run through most of this with you. I've wanted everybody to see what you're going to get out of the Revit Families Guide and the Revit Model Content Style Guide. This is how to create families and the physical geometry of creating, or the physical instructions on creating geometry and connectors. And here are the guidelines on how to do all of that the right way. So this is how to stay standardized and custom, or standardized in the industry, so everybody's uniform and on the same page. Make sure you get this to your manufacturers. If they have any questions, take them to this page and let them loose. One last thing, if you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see, or things you'd like me to show on this blog, or videos you'd like me to make sure you go up here to this website location right there and let me know what it is you want to see. And oh yeah, one last thing. In case you haven't figured out what the big secret is all about, let me fill you in on what the big secret is all about. The big secret is right here, the Seek website. Right there. And if we go to that website, I'll explain to you in brief what this is all about, since we just glossed over it. This is the Seek website. This is your one-stop shop to download any manufacturer-specific content like Takeo you just saw there. We had an exit sign over here last time I was on there. It's different information that pops up every time. But this is all manufacturer-specific content, as well as content that others have developed. And of course, as you saw today, this is going to be your one-stop shop for all the information you need on how to create families yourself as well, and all the information for manufacturers to create that content. So that's what the big secret is, and so that's why we did this video today. So with that, thanks for joining us.